On January 5th, 2021, Georgia will have a Senate runoff election. This election will single-handedly decide which political party controls the Senate. If you're a gun owner, and I don't care what political party you're associated with, if the Democrats win the 2 Senate seats, your ability to exercise your Second Amendment rights will be in jeopardy. And here's why. Ralph Warnock and John Ossoff are the 2 Democrats running for the 2 Senate seats. Warnock is a pastor who touts his anti-gun stance in his sermons.
And that's why you've got politicians who go to church every Sunday morning and then walk into that Capitol, stand under that gold dome, and come up with the dumbest legislation you can ever imagine. What we need is more guns in more places by more people. Think about all of the crazy people you bump into just on the routine every week, on your job, on the street, some of them in church. Don't look at them. Imagine all them people with guns.
And anger of Americans should also be directed at the elected leaders whose job is to keep us safe, but who place a higher premium on the money and political power of an industry dedicated to profiting from the unfettered spread of ever more powerful firearms. It is a moral outrage and a national disgrace that civilians can legally purchase weapons designed specifically to kill people with brutal speed and efficiency. These are weapons of war. Thank you, New York Times.
I had to go to the Capitol yesterday because they've decided that what we really need is more guns and more access to guns by more people in more places. And so somebody decided that they had a bright idea to pass a piece of legislation that will allow for guns and concealed weapons to be carried in churches. Have you ever been to a church meeting? That's the last place. God's Christian people aren't always there. Whoever thought of that had never been to a church meeting. Guns in bars, guns on college and university campuses, and guns in airports. So we stood just yesterday begging our state legislators not to pass this terrible law.
Take a good guess at who is endorsing and donating to Ralph Warnock's campaign. If you said the anti-gun group, the Brady Pack, who wants to ban semi-automatic guns, you'd be correct.
We're joined now by Brian Lemick. He's the executive director of Brady Pack, which is, of course, lobbying for gun reform.
Yeah, we see with a Biden presidency real opportunity here because Joe Biden's been on our side of the issue since he's been in Congress. We look at the Brady bill. Joe Biden was one of the major legislators behind the Brady bill. We look at the assault weapon ban. Joe Biden was there in the mid-90s working on that. So we know that there's a real opportunity here with an experienced lawmaker, someone that has a lot of experience reaching across the aisle to pass meaningful legislation. We could not be more happy for a Biden presidency to move our issue.
The executive director of Georgia Gun Owners says, and I quote, Warnock is the most radical anti-gunner ever on the ballot in Georgia history. Even more radical than his top supporter, Stacey Abrams.
Let's talk about gun policy. When you were a state lawmaker in 2016, you co-sponsored a bill that would have allowed Georgia state authorities to take away so-called assault weapons from current gun owners. Most similar bans would grandfather in existing weapons of that sort, semi-automatic rifles that are called assault weapons. So is that your current position, that law-abiding gun owners in Georgia should have to give up those weapons if authorities deem it necessary?
In the state of Georgia, you introduced legislation to start conversations. I am happy to work with the legislature to figure out how we make an assault weapons ban work. AR-15s are not necessary on our streets. Semi-automatic weapons have to be put under a certain level of responsible control. And I believe as the next governor of Georgia, I can work with Democrats and Republicans to come up with common sense gun safety legislation that will allow us to make our families and our community safer.
Well, just to be clear, you were one of 6 co-sponsors of this bill, a House Bill 731, introduced January 11, 2016, not that long ago. Your co-sponsor told reporters the law, quote, would require gun owners of these particular models to turn their guns in.
Then there's John Ossoff, A two-faced assassin who's like Beto's smarter, slimy brother.
I'm John Ossoff, and nothing's more important than keeping Georgians safe. I'll fight for Georgia's military bases. I'll defend our Second Amendment. And police officers put their lives on the line to protect us.
I'm John Ossoff, and nothing's more important than keeping Georgians safe. Officers put their lives on the line to protect us.
John Ossoff understands that Georgia is a gun state, so in one breath, he'll say this.
I'll defend our Second Amendment.
And then in the next breath, he'll say this.
What I support is strict licensing for all semi-automatic weapons. I support universal background checks, and I think that assault weapons should not be available to the general public. Look, I think that for semi-automatic weapons, whether they're rifles or handguns, we need strict licensing requirements. Most Americans believe that absent some specific need and high qualification, assault weapons should not be available to the general public. Most Americans agree that semi-automatic weapons should require licenses.
Saying you'll defend our Second Amendment while wanting to ban the most popular gun used by civilians for self-defense is like saying you'll defend our First Amendment while trying to ban the internet. And again, guess who announced their support for John Ossoff in this election? Everytown, the most anti-Second Amendment group in the country, who was funded by the wealthiest anti-Second Amendment billionaire in the country, if not the world, Mike Bloomberg. Mike Bloomberg is so anti-Second Amendment that when a churchgoer stopped a mass shooting by shooting the shooter, this was his response.
It may be true, I wasn't there, I don't know the facts, that somebody in the congregation had their own gun and killed the person who murdered two other people, but it's the job of law enforcement to have guns and to decide when to shoot. You just do not want the average citizen carrying a gun in a crowded place.
This is the same man who, through Everytown, is spending millions of dollars to elect Democrat politicians who will push his anti-gun agenda.
All that hard work.
Moms Demand Action is part of Everytown for Gun Safety, a national nonprofit that advocates for gun control. Founded by, but now operating independent of, billionaire Democratic presidential candidate Mike Bloomberg. Everytown will spend $8 million in Texas in 2020, campaigning for candidates who will vote for stricter gun laws. Focusing first on the Texas House, specifically 11 North Texas seats held by Republicans who narrowly won in 2018, like Representative Matt Shaheen of Plano. He said, quote, "A New York City group founded by Mike Bloomberg is not going to come in and buy this election. Texans won't allow it to happen. I won't allow it to happen."
Let's talk a little bit more about Mike Bloomberg's influence here. He did provide Everytown with about a quarter of their funding in 2019. They told me today, though, they are pretty much operating independently of him, and they say this is going to be a completely grassroots funded effort.
I really and truly can't stand Democrats versus Republican Party politics, but that's the state of our country right now, so I have to call a spade a spade. I, for the life of me, can't understand Democrats' obsession with restricting the Second Amendment, but you hardly ever see Republicans pushing these type of laws. And this is the main reason why the fate of the Second Amendment is going to be in the hands of Georgia voters on January 5th, 2021. Because if the Democrats win the 2 Georgia Senate seats, that means that the Senate will be split straight down the middle 50-50. And take one guess who gets to be the tiebreaker on any gun control legislation that the Democrats try to pass in the Senate if Joe Biden becomes president. Kamala, I never met a gun control bill I didn't like, Harris. The Democrats already control the House, and with Kamala being the tiebreaker in the Senate, we all know Joe Biden will rubber stamp any gun control bill that comes across his desk because his personal gun control plan reads like a How to Destroy the Second Amendment for Dummies pamphlet. At that point, all we'd have is a Supreme Court to possibly stop them. But oh wait, I forgot the Democrats won't answer any questions about them possibly trying to pack the Supreme Court with judges that will rule in their favor if they win control of the Senate.
When you speak about the Supreme Court, though, I think the American people really deserve an answer, Senator Harris. Are you and Joe Biden going to pack the court if Judge Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed?
In 1864.
Well, I'd like you to answer the question.
No, Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking. I'm speaking. Yeah. In 1864, one of the, I think, political heroes, certainly the president, I assume if you also Mr. Vice President, is Abraham Lincoln. Mm-hmm. Abraham Lincoln was up for re-election. And it was 27 days before the election. And a seat became open on the United States Supreme Court. Abraham Lincoln's party was in charge, not only of the White House, but the Senate. But Honest Abe said, it's not the right thing to do. The American people deserve to make the decision about who will be the next president of the United States, and then that person can select who will serve for a lifetime on the highest court of our land. And so Joe and I are very clear. The American people are voting right now, and it should be their decision about who will serve on this most important body for a lifetime.
Thank you, Senator Harris. People, Susan, are voting right now. They'd like to know if you and Joe Biden are going to pack the Supreme Court if you don't get your way in this nomination.
Let's talk about packing.
You once again gave a non-answer. Joe Biden gave a non-answer.
Trying to answer you now.
The American people deserve a straight answer. And if you haven't figured it out yet, the straight answer is they are going to pack the Supreme Court if they somehow win this election.
And if this happens, there's literally nothing legislatively or judicially that can stop them from pushing their 2A destroying gun control plans down our throats. So please, please, I'm begging you. If you can vote in Georgia, vote to protect the Second Amendment. If you don't live in Georgia, share this video far and wide so that people who can vote in these elections get this message. Because I promise you, the anti-gun Second Amendment groups like Everytown are spending millions on people who are specifically dedicated to calling people in Georgia to go and vote in this election the way they want. I don't have millions of dollars, but I do have a platform with millions of people who can help get this message out. So please share this video far and wide so that the people of Georgia learn exactly what the anti-gunners are trying to do to their Second Amendment rights, not only in their state, but in the country. Today, there was another growing gun confiscation request in all 50 of our states requesting to confiscate our AR-15s. We want the government to know what would happen if they tyrannically passed their so-called assault weapons ban. I will not comply is a symbolization of defiance against politicians, anti-gunners, and any other tyrannical entity looking to deprive you or your Second Amendment right as put forth in the Constitution of the United States. All right, now we have the performance mask at shop.mrcolionnoir.com. And no, these aren't the masks that suffocate you to death. You can breathe in this mask. It's lightweight material, very high quality. You know how I do. I'm sure the YouTube algorithm is going to do a phenomenal job of suppressing this message. So please share this video with as many people as you can so we can beat the algorithm and get our 2A message out to the masses. Also, don't forget to like this video and leave a comment and hit the bell and subscribe button. If you're looking for where to purchase your defund gun control shirts, hats, and drinkware, there's a link in the description section of this video.